The bride slapped me in front of 300 guests, not in the kitchen, not behind a closed door, right there at the altar. My cheek burned as the whole church went silent. Camilla stood above me in her perfect white dress. Diamonds covered her neck. I was still wearing my plain black maid's uniform. Between us stood Grace Luca Moretti's 7-year-old daughter. She had run into my arms only seconds earlier. Now she was holding my dress and crying so hard she could barely breathe. "Please don't let her send me away," Grace begged. Luca stepped down from the altar. He was the most feared Mafia boss in the city. I had watched grown men shake when he looked at them. But at that moment, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his daughter. "Who is sending you away?" he asked. Grace pointed at the woman he was about to marry. "Camilla said I'm leaving tomorrow. She said you don't want me anymore." Luca's face went still. Camilla gave a nervous laugh. "She's confused. Mia has been filling her head with lies. I didn't tell her anything," I said. Camilla turned on me. "You couldn't stand watching Luca marry me." Then she slapped me. She expected Luca to order his guards to throw me outside. Instead, he caught my arm before I fell. His eyes moved to the red mark on my face. "Did you just hit her?" "She ruined our wedding." That wasn't my question. Camilla looked around at the guests. "Luca, everyone is watching." "Good." He removed the wedding ring from his finger. Then he placed it in her hand. "The wedding is over." Camilla's face lost all color. "You would humiliate me over a maid?" "No, I'm ending this because my daughter is terrified of the woman I was about to bring into her home." "You'll destroy the peace between our families." Then, it wasn't peace. "You'll lose half the city." Luca looked at Grace clinging to me. "I almost lost something worth more." Camilla closed her hand around the ring. Then she leaned close to me. "You think you won?" She whispered. "Wait until he sees what I left inside your bag." 1 hour later, Luca's guards searched my room. They found Camilla's missing diamond necklace beneath my clothes. They also found signed papers sending Grace to a boarding school in another country. Every page carried Luca's signature. Luca looked at the papers. Then, he looked at me. "Did you put these here?" "No." Before I could say anything else, his security chief rushed into the room. "Sir, Grace is missing." My heart stopped. The wedding had been canceled. I had been framed as a thief. And the little girl I had promised to protect had disappeared from the most guarded house in the city. But to understand why Camilla hated me so much, you need to know what happened 2 months before the wedding. Back when I was only the maid, and Luca Moretti still believed he was marrying a good woman. My name is Mia Bennett. I began working at the Moretti estate 18 months after Luca's wife died. I was hired to clean bedrooms, carry meals, and stay invisible. I was good at that last part. Luca's home was filled with armed guards, expensive furniture, and men who spoke in low voices behind closed doors. I learned very quickly not to ask questions. I also learned that Luca had 2 different faces. Outside the house, he was cold and feared. Inside it, he was a father who had no idea how to speak to his grieving daughter. Grace had been 6 when her mother died. After the funeral, she stopped speaking for almost 4 months. Doctors came to the mansion. Teachers came. A child specialist visited twice a week. Grace ignored all of them. Then, one rainy evening, I found her hiding beneath the dining table. I was cleaning after dinner when I saw 2 small feet behind one of the chairs. I bent down. Grace was sitting under the table with her knees against her chest. "Everyone is looking for you," I said. She turned her face away. "I can pretend I didn't see you." She looked back at me. I sat on the floor. "I used to hide under our kitchen table when I was your age." Grace remained silent. "My father always found me because I took cookies with me." That made her look at my empty hands. I made a beginner's mistake. Her mouth moved slightly. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. I brought her a cookie and a glass of milk. We sat beneath the table together without speaking. After 10 minutes, Grace whispered one word. Chocolate? It was the first word anyone had heard her say in weeks. I brought her a chocolate cookie. The next night, she returned to the same place. So did I. We began with small things, cookies, drawings, stories about animals. Grace loved birds, especially the bright yellow ones that visited the old greenhouse behind the mansion. Some nights she spoke, some nights she didn't. I never forced her. Luca discovered us beneath the table on the 5th night. He entered the dining room and stopped when he saw my legs sticking out. What are you doing? Grace placed one finger against her lips. I looked up at him. I'm hiding. I can see that. Then I'm not very good at it. Grace covered her mouth to hide a laugh. Luca heard it. Something changed in his face. He lowered himself to the floor and looked beneath the table. Grace immediately moved closer to me. Pain crossed his eyes. He tried to hide it, but I saw. May I join you? He asked. Grace shook her head. Luca nodded. All right. He stood and walked away. He didn't become angry. He didn't order her to come out. That surprised me. Later that night, he waited outside the servants' kitchen. Grace spoke to you. Yes, how? I didn't ask her to. What did you do? I gave her a cookie. I have paid doctors thousands of dollars. You should have tried chocolate first. Luca stared at me. Then, for the first time, I saw him smile. It was small and quick, but it changed his whole face. Would you spend more time with her? He asked. I'm a maid. I know, she needs her father. His smile disappeared. I'm trying. No, you're hiring people to try. Nobody spoke to Luca Moretti like that. I expected to lose my job. Instead, he looked toward Grace's bedroom. What should I do? Start with 10 minutes. 10 minutes of what? Anything she chooses. The following evening, Luca sat beneath the dining table with his daughter. Grace didn't speak to him. But she didn't leave either. 10 minutes became 20. Then Luca began reading to her before bed. Slowly, Grace came back to life. She began speaking at breakfast. She returned to school. She started laughing again. And without meaning to, I became part of their small family. I was still a maid. I still cleaned floors and carried trays. But Grace came to me when she was scared. Luca came to me when he didn't understand what she needed. That was our life before Camilla arrived. Luca told the staff about his engagement during a Monday morning meeting. The wedding will take place here in 8 weeks, he said. Camilla Russo will move into the East Wing tomorrow. Mrs. Rosa nearly dropped her notebook. Everyone knew the Russo name. The Morettis and Russos had hated each other for years. Their businesses fought over the same parts of the city. The marriage was supposed to end that fight. Do you love her? Grace asked. The entire room froze. Luca looked at his daughter. We respect each other. That means no, Grace said. I looked down to hide my reaction. Luca saw it. What is funny, Mia? Nothing, sir. Grace smiled at me. Camilla arrived the next afternoon. She stepped from a white car, wearing a red dress and dark glasses. She was beautiful, not soft or warm. Beautiful like a knife displayed behind glass. She brought Grace a large doll. Grace thanked her politely. Then, she placed the doll on a chair and came to stand beside me. Camilla noticed. You must be the nanny, she said. I'm part of the house staff. A maid? Yes, Camilla looked at Grace's hand holding mine. Why is my future daughter holding the maid's hand? Grace answered before I could. Mia is my best friend. Camilla removed her glasses. I see. That evening, Camilla ate dinner with Luca and Grace. I served them. She smiled whenever Luca looked at her. When he looked away, the smile disappeared. Camilla asked Grace about school, music, and riding lessons. Grace gave short answers. Then Camilla said, after the wedding, we'll make some changes. What changes? Grace asked. We'll redecorate your room. You're too old for all those childish drawings. I like my drawings. You'll learn to like better things. Grace looked at Luca. He was reading a message on his phone and hadn't heard. Camilla turned toward me. You may leave. I'm serving dinner, I can see that. I'm telling you to stop. Luca looked up. Mia stays until Grace finishes eating. Camilla's smile returned, of course. But her eyes told me that she would remember. The first real problem came 3 days later. Grace's bedroom contained photographs of her mother Sophia. One stood beside her bed. Another hung above the fireplace. Camilla ordered a worker to remove both. I found him carrying the large portrait into the hallway. Where are you taking that? Ms. Russo wants it placed in storage. Put it back. Camilla appeared behind me. I gave him an order. This is Grace's room. It will soon be my home. It is already Grace's home. The worker looked between us. Camilla stepped closer. You are very brave when Luca isn't here. I'm not trying to be brave. What are you trying to be? Someone who doesn't remove a dead mother's photograph from her child's bedroom. Camilla's face hardened. You think being close to Grace makes you important. No, you think Luca sees you. I remained silent. Camilla smiled again. That silence answered me. She told the worker to continue. I took the portrait from his hands. Camilla grabbed my wrist. If you disobey me again, you will be gone before sunset. A voice came from the doorway. Let her go. Luca stood there. Camilla released me. Her whole expression changed. We were discussing the room. No, I said. She was removing Sophia's photographs. Camilla looked shocked that I had spoken. I wanted to protect Grace, she said. Constant reminders may be stopping her from moving forward. Luca looked at his late wife's portrait, then at his daughter who had entered behind him. Grace's face was pale. Put it back, Luca said. Camilla stared at him. Luca put every photograph back. Grace ran to him. He lifted her into his arms. Camilla looked at me over his shoulder. That was the moment she stopped seeing me as an annoying employee. I had become a threat. A week later, Camilla called me into the East Wing. She had placed 3 dresses across her bed. Which one should I wear to dinner? The blue one. Why? Because you asked me to choose. She studied me through the mirror. Luca trusts you. He trusts many people. Not with his daughter. I began folding a shawl. Camilla continued. Grace depends on you too much. She has been through a lot. She needs discipline. She needs patience. You seem to have an answer for everything. Only the things you ask. Camilla turned. After the wedding, Grace will begin attending a proper school. She already attends school. This one is in Switzerland. My hand stopped. That is very far away. That is the point. Does Luca know? He will. When? When the decision has already been made. I stared at her. Camilla smiled. You may leave. I went directly to Luca's office. 2 guards stood outside, but they allowed me in. Luca was reading contracts. What happened? He asked. Camilla plans to send Grace to boarding school. His expression changed. Who told you that? She did. He stood. You're certain? She said the school is in Switzerland. Luca called Camilla to the office. She arrived carrying a bright school brochure. Mia misunderstood, she said. I mentioned a 2-week summer program. Art, writing and language classes. I thought Grace might enjoy it. She handed him the brochure. The program looked real. Luca glanced at me. That isn't what she said. Camilla laughed. Why would I secretly send your daughter to another country? I don't know. Camilla's smile faded. Do you believe the maid or the woman you're marrying? Luca answered carefully. I believe Mia heard something that worried her. That is not an answer. No papers will be signed, he said. Grace is not going anywhere. Camilla looked at me. Of course. She kissed Luca's cheek and left. I followed a few minutes later. Camilla waited for me around the corner. You ran to him. You lied to him. I changed the plan. That isn't the same thing. She moved close enough for me to smell her perfume. After the wedding, this house will be mine. Luca will be mine. Grace will learn to obey me. She isn't a piece of furniture. No, furniture is easier to move. My stomach turned. If you try to send her away, I'll tell him again, and I'll show him what you really want. I don't want anything from Luca. Every poor woman wants something from a rich man. I looked directly at her. Maybe that's why you're marrying him. Camilla's face changed. For 1 second, I thought she would hit me. Instead, she smiled. You just made a very expensive mistake. After that, small things began happening. Camilla told Luca that I was teaching Grace to disrespect her. She claimed I entered private rooms without permission. She said Grace had started calling me mommy. That last lie hurt the most. Luca asked me about it one evening. We stood in the library while rain hit the windows. Has Grace called you her mother? No. Camilla says she heard it. Then Camilla is lying. Luca's jaw tightened. She is going to be my wife. That does not make her honest. He looked tired. I'm trying to hold two families together. And Grace? What about her? Who is holding her together? His eyes moved toward the floor. I regretted the words, but I did not take them back. I love my daughter, he said. I know. Then why do you speak as if I'm abandoning her? Because you keep calling this marriage peace while your daughter is becoming scared inside her own home. Luca looked at me for a long time. What do you want me to do? Listen when Grace speaks, even when she says something you don't want to hear. And what if she refuses to accept anyone after her mother? Then, give her time. Love is not a job Camilla receives after marrying you. The room became quiet. Luca stepped closer. You aren't afraid of me. I am. You hide it well. I've had practice. His eyes moved to my face. For one dangerous moment, neither of us looked away. Then I stepped back. You're getting married, I said. I know. Do you? I left before he answered. The following morning, Camilla gave me a new schedule. I was no longer allowed to help Grace prepare for school. I could not enter her bedroom. I could not serve family meals. When Grace asked why, Camilla told her I was busy. Grace knew that wasn't true. She began having nightmares again. One night, I heard her crying. I entered her room and found her shaking beneath the blankets. Mia, don't leave me. I'm here. Camilla said you'll go away after the wedding. I sat beside her. Did she say that to you? Grace nodded. She said I have to stop acting like a baby. She said Daddy won't need you when she becomes my mother. Listen to me. Your mother will always be your mother. Nobody can take her place. Will Camilla send me away? Your father said you aren't going anywhere. What if she makes him? Your father is not easy to make. That almost earned a smile. I stayed until Grace fell asleep. When I opened the bedroom door, Camilla stood outside. You disobeyed me again. She was frightened. She was pretending. She's 7. She has learned that tears bring you running. Camilla entered and looked at the sleeping child. She will stop this behavior at school. What school? Camilla looked at me. Then she realized she had said too much. The summer program. You told her she was leaving after the wedding. You should be careful, Mia. You should stay away from her. Camilla stepped into the hallway and closed Grace's door. You will be fired on the morning of my wedding. Why wait? Because I want you here long enough to watch Luca choose me. She smiled. Then, I want you gone before you can enjoy the party. 4 days before the wedding, I found the real school papers. Camilla had left a leather folder inside the morning room. Grace's full name was printed across the first page. The school was not a summer program. It was a full-time boarding school. The first term lasted 11 months. A private plane was booked to leave the morning after the wedding. The final page carried Luca's signature. But I had seen Luca sign hundreds of papers. This signature was wrong. Camilla had forged it. I took photographs with my phone. Then, I heard the door open. Camilla stood behind me. Her assistant was beside her. I wondered how long it would take you, Camilla said. I held up the folder. You forged Luca's name. No one will believe that. The school will. Camilla's assistant grabbed my phone. I tried to take it back, but Camilla pushed me against the desk. You are finished, she whispered. If Grace gets on that plane, Luca will know what you did. By then, you will be in jail. For what? Camilla touched the diamond necklace around her throat. For stealing something valuable. On the morning of the wedding, Mrs. Rosa came to my room with tears in her eyes. You've been dismissed. By Luca? Camilla gave the order. She said Mr. Moretti approved it. I knew Luca had not approved anything. But guards were already waiting outside my door. Camilla had prepared everything. I was told to pack and leave before the ceremony ended. I placed my clothes inside an old suitcase. Then, Grace ran into my room. She was wearing her flower girl dress. Mia? Her face fell when she saw the suitcase. Where are you going? I need to leave for a little while. Camilla said you're never coming back. That isn't her decision. She said I'm leaving too. Grace was holding an envelope. Where did you get that? Her room. Inside was the flight ticket to Switzerland. Tomorrow morning. 1 passenger. Grace Moretti. Grace looked up at me. Daddy doesn't want me anymore. That is not true. She said he signed the papers. She lied. Then tell him. I will. Now, the wedding is starting. Grace grabbed my hand. Please, before I could stop her, she ran from my room. She crossed the garden and entered the church through the main doors. I followed. Grace reached me just as I stepped into the aisle. She wrapped both arms around my waist. Please don't let her send me away. Camilla came down from the altar. She called me jealous. She called me a liar. Then she slapped me. And Luca canceled the wedding. After Grace disappeared, the entire estate closed. Cars could not leave. Guards searched every building. Luca's men checked the road, the gardens and the woods behind the mansion. Luca stood in the main hall issuing orders. His voice was calm. His hands were not. Camilla sat in the library with her father and 2 lawyers. She claimed I had stolen her necklace, forged the school papers, and frightened Grace to destroy the wedding. The evidence had been placed in my room. The security camera outside my door had stopped working that morning. Everything pointed toward me. Luca found me near the stairs. Where would Grace go? I don't know. You know her better than anyone. The pain inside his words struck me. You are her father. I know that. Then stop speaking to me like I took her. His face changed. I didn't mean yes, you did. I'm trying to find my daughter. So am I. I closed my eyes and forced myself to think. Grace hated the dark. She would not enter the woods alone. She would not go near the road. Then I remembered the yellow bird she had drawn 3 days earlier. It was standing beneath a glass roof. The old greenhouse, I said. Luca turned. What? She used to go there with her mother. The old greenhouse stood beyond the main gardens. It had been locked since Sophia died. We ran. One side window was open. Inside, I found Grace beneath an old wooden table. She was holding a photograph of her mother. Her white flower girl dress was covered in dirt. Grace, she looked at me. I'm sorry, I dropped to my knees. You have nothing to be sorry for. I ruined Daddy's wedding. No, you told the truth. Camilla said he would hate me. Luca stopped outside the door. Grace couldn't see him, but I could. He remained silent. I thought if I left, Daddy could marry her, Grace said. Then you wouldn't get hurt again. My throat tightened. You are not responsible for making adults happy. Will you leave? I don't know what happens next. Her eyes filled again. I reached for her hands. But listen to me. Your mother loved you. Your father loves you. And nothing Camilla says can change that. Do you want to be my new mother? No, Grace looked hurt. I continued quickly. I don't want to replace your mother. I couldn't. She is part of you. Then what are you? I'm Mia, that's all? For now. Do you love me? Yes, how much? More than this whole giant house. Grace finally smiled. Behind me, Luca made a broken sound. Grace saw him and stood. Daddy? He crossed the greenhouse and dropped to his knees. Grace ran into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "You didn't know." "I should have." He looked at me over her shoulder. "You both tried to tell me." Luca carried Grace back to the mansion. By the time we returned, his security chief had recovered the missing camera recording. It showed Camilla's assistant entering my room with a small black bag. She remained inside for 4 minutes. When she left, the bag was empty. Another camera showed Camilla placing the school folder inside that same bag. The signature expert employed by Luca's lawyer confirmed that his name had been forged. Camilla had arranged everything. Her father still tried to save the marriage. He stood in Luca's library with his hands on the desk. "This can be settled privately," he said. "The ceremony can happen tomorrow." Luca stared at him. "You want me to marry the woman who tried to remove my daughter?" "Camilla made a mistake. She forged my signature. She was thinking about your future." "My daughter is my future." Camilla stepped forward. "You cannot run an empire while raising a damaged child." Luca's expression changed. Grace stood in the hallway with Mrs. Rosa. I prayed she had not heard. Camilla continued. "She cries. She refuses to listen. She is still trapped by a dead woman. She lost her mother. And you need a wife who can make hard choices. You made one." Luca opened the library door. "Leave." Camilla stared at him. "You're choosing a maid over me?" "No," he looked toward Grace. "I'm choosing my daughter over a woman who sees her as a problem." Camilla pointed at me. "She planned this. She wants your house, your money, and your name." Luca looked at me. "Mia is leaving." My heart dropped. Camilla smiled. "Then," Luca finished, "because she no longer works for this family. From this moment she is under my protection as a witness, and no one will ever order her again." Camilla's smile vanished. Her father moved closer to Luca. "If you end this agreement, our families return to war." Luca did not move. "Then you should leave before it begins." Camilla and her family walked out of the mansion. She did not look back at Luca. She looked at me. And I knew she was not finished. By evening, photographs of me appeared online. One showed Luca holding my arm at the altar. Another showed us entering the greenhouse. The headline called me a maid who had seduced a grieving Mafia boss. Camilla told reporters that I had manipulated Grace and destroyed the marriage for money. My photograph appeared everywhere. Strangers found my phone number. Someone painted gold digger across the door of my apartment. Luca wanted to move me and place guards outside. I refused. "You need protection," he said. "I need the truth. I can force every newspaper to remove the story. And tomorrow they'll say I used your power to silence them. What do you want? Clear my name without turning me into your woman." His eyes held mine. "You aren't my woman." Exactly. The answer seemed to hurt him. But he nodded. The next morning, Luca released one short statement. He confirmed that Camilla had forged his signature, planned to send Grace away, and planted her necklace in my room. He included the camera footage. He did not mention romance. He did not call me special. He told the truth. Within 2 days, the story changed. Camilla became the woman who had tried to remove a child from her father. Her family left the city soon after. I moved out of the Moretti estate. Luca asked me to stay as Grace's nanny. I said no. "Grace needs you," he said. "She needs you more." "I'm here. You're in the building." That isn't always the same thing. He accepted the truth without defending himself. That was new. I found work at a small children's center near my apartment. The pay was lower, but I loved it. I helped children read, paint, and feel safe. Grace visited every Saturday. Luca brought her himself. At first, he remained inside his car. Then, he began entering. He helped Grace choose books. He attended school meetings. He learned how to braid her hair badly. He burned pancakes and ate them anyway. He stopped asking other people to be the father Grace needed. 3 months passed before he asked me to dinner. "No guards," I said. "They'll remain outside. No expensive restaurant. You choose. No gifts. That seems unnecessary. No gifts, Luca, he sighed. No gifts. I looked at him. This is not gratitude? No, you were going to marry another woman 3 months ago. I was going to marry an agreement. That was one of the worst mistakes I ever made. And now? Now I'm asking a woman to have dinner with me. What if she says no? I return next Saturday with Grace and pretend it doesn't hurt. I smiled. One dinner. One dinner became 2. Then 5. We moved slowly. Luca never asked me to return to his house as an employee. He never tried to buy my attention. When he gave me flowers, I discovered Grace had chosen them from a grocery store. They were terrible. I kept them until every petal fell. A year later, Luca took me to the old greenhouse. It had been repaired. The broken glass was gone. Yellow birds moved through the trees outside. Grace had helped decorate a small table beneath the roof. Luca held out a ring. Before you answer, he said, I need you to know something. That sounds dangerous. I love you. But I will never ask you to replace Sophia. Not for Grace. Not for me. I wouldn't try. I know. He looked toward the place where we had found Grace hiding. You told me love was not a job someone received after marriage. You remember that? I remember everything you said when you were angry with me. That is a lot of information. Most of it was useful. He lowered himself to one knee. Mia Bennett, will you choose this family? I looked at Grace. She was trying to remain hidden behind a plant. I could see half her dress. I think part of the family is spying on us. Grace stepped out. I wanted to see. I laughed. Luca looked back at me. Well? Yes, Grace screamed and threw her arms around both of us. We did not marry in the church where Camilla struck me. We held the wedding in the garden behind the greenhouse. Mrs. Rosa sat in the front row. Every member of the household attended as a guest. Grace carried the rings. Before the ceremony, she entered my room wearing a pale yellow dress. Are you scared? She asked. A little. Daddy is more scared. How do you know? He has checked the rings 7 times. I smiled. Grace became serious. Do I have to call you Mom after today? No. Will you be sad if I don't? No, you call me whatever feels right. What if I never call you that? I will still love you. She looked toward the photograph of Sophia on the table. You really don't want me to forget her? Never. Grace took my hand. Then, I think she would like you. When I reached the garden, Luca was waiting. There were no business families, no forced peace agreement, no reporters. No one was there because they feared Luca Moretti. They were there because they loved us. Before the priest began, Luca leaned closer. Are you sure? You're giving me one last chance to run? I will always give you a choice. I looked at Grace. Then I looked at the man who had finally learned that protecting people meant listening to them. I'm sure. The first wedding ended with a slap. The second began with a choice. Camilla had hit me because she wanted everyone to remember that I was only the maid. But Luca did not cancel his wedding because he loved me. Not then. He canceled it because his daughter told the truth, and he finally listened. Love came later, slowly, honestly, by choice. That is why it lasted. If this story touched your heart, write "He finally listened" in the comments, and subscribe for more emotional stories about love, courage, and second chances.